Hi, it's me again. This is Dave with Dave Drives, and I'm not driving, I'm just sitting, but I'm going to sit here and say something that's on my mind. Anxiety. Anxiety. You may be having anxiety right now, and it's paralyzing, isn't it? It keeps you from doing what you need to do. And what I want to emphasize is I have had a lot of anxiety in my life also. And I'm going to say that I was programmed to have a lot of anxiety from my beautiful fully blooded Armenian mother. Uh, the reality is, for some reason, she learned how to just completely stress over different things in life. And I want to explain something that in the downturn of the economy, since I was programmed to stress out over everything, I just couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. It was just survival every day. And so I want to explain that when you have anxiety, your brain is basically put on pause. And I've been through, think of all the things. I'm not just going to share the things I've been through. Think of all the things you've been through. You have had severe things happen in your life. We all have. The older I get, the more I realize when I used to cry on people's shoulders about all the terrible things I've been through, car accidents and, relationships ending and losses of business, losses of cars, just struggling to get the finances in order. Um, when you're going through those things, you think it's the end of the world, right? You just want somehow for the pain to go away, and you think drastic thoughts. It's terrible. It's terrible. It really is. But I can look back in my life, and I really don't remember all of those things. I remember some of them, but they're so far back, it's like, wow, what a relief I'm through that. So it doesn't always help to tell people, hey, you're not going to live through this forever. It will be over someday. Someday we'll look back on it and laugh. But the reality is you're going through it now. So what do? Well, you have to realize that problems can be used to advance you, right? Why is that? Someone I worked for before used to always say the problems today are from the bad decisions yesterday, but the successes today are from the good decisions yesterday. So what you need to do is you need to look to the future and realize, hey, I'm going to face a problem and I could avoid it if I just start planning now. For instance, many experts say save money for 6 months' salary. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, how do I do that? I don't even have any money. How do I save for the future? Simple. Get in the habit of saving something, even if it's a tiny bit, and putting it in a place where you cannot get to it. The amazing thing that happens, because most problems are financial, and I realize you might not be dealing with just financial, but financial is a big deal for most people. If you save a little bit of money and set it aside, even if it's 1%, and that's a good starting point, um, somehow you find money for all the bills somewhere else. It forces you to not realize that you have some savings. Okay. You also have to look forward to the bills, because I'll tell you what most people do is they get a little money, and like my dad used to say, it'll burn a hole in your pocket, and you want to go get that shiny thing that you saw. But the reality is, having that shiny thing is not as fulfilling as paying that bill. Eventually, you're going to realize it. You're going to be like, why didn't I pay that bill? Why did I go out to dinner? Why did I buy that new thing that I really didn't need because the other one was fine? And you're the decision maker in your whole life. Now, an amazing thing about life is when you realize that your whole life is spent inside your own head. Okay? So anything external doesn't matter. Anyone external doesn't matter. It's how you process it inside your head. And there's two different levels of your head. There's a subconscious below the surface. Go back here. And then there's conscious up here. Subconscious just reacts to your conscious level. It programs the subconscious. And then your habits are formed right here automatically. You don't even think about it. So keep programming your subconscious for the right things. Okay? So that those habits prevent you from getting in a situation of anxiety. Now, how do you do that? You have to stand back and look at your life for what it is. Say, what are the things I do that get me into trouble? Right? When you stand back and consciously look at what your subconscious does, then you realize, oh, wow, I do that. I spend my money unwisely, right? Or like me, I'm going to tell you, my dad used to bang on the table. Boom, boom, eat your mum, he'd say. And as a little kid, it would put me in a shock. And so to this day, I have trouble because I clean my plate. So I realized by standing back and looking at myself, I do that. And I think, no, wait a minute. I don't want the problem of being overweight anymore. So am I going to clean my plate? No. I'm going to eat slowly and I'm going to digest it so that my brain is communicating with my stomach and knows when I'm full. I don't have to clean my plate. That was a misinformation that came from my father, who was programmed by post-war mentality, meaning food is hard to come by, it's worth money, you've got to finish it. No, I don't. Okay? Only take as much as you need, and that's it. And many people will tell me, oh, I can't eat mushrooms, I can't eat tomatoes, oh, they make me sick. And I always ask them, I say, well, when you were younger, what happened? Did your parents force you to eat that? And they will say, oh, yeah. Yeah, there was one time while I was crying and my parents were forcing me to eat what was on my plate. And I learned from that because those people hate that food type for the rest of their life because they've connected that thought to an emotion, right? And that becomes a subconscious habit, is to avoid whatever is a negative emotion. Isn't that interesting? They were programmed, okay? So I learned that with my girls. And so what I would always tell them when they were afraid to eat something, I wouldn't force them to eat it. I would say, just try it. And if you don't like it, you don't have to eat it. And I would say 90% of the time they'd try it and they'd be like, yeah, it's not so bad. There was no negative emotion with it. And so they're not like afraid of a bunch of things. Interestingly, though, the girls don't like tomatoes that much. And it was because as they grew up, my wife did not like tomatoes. And she would always tell them that. And so when a parent says they don't like something, then the kid's like, oh, there must be something wrong with it. So I don't like them either. But really, I would say, well, just try it. It's great on a hamburger or a sandwich. Add some moisture to it. It all blends together good. And so they like them in certain situations now. So it just shows how you're programmed. But the anxiety thing, see, I'm going back to what we do with anxiety. It's sometimes how we are programmed to deal with a certain circumstance. We watched our parents get very anxious over finances, so then we do. We also programmed ourselves to become too emotionally tied to buying a new thing instead of paying our bills. But we should feel better by avoiding the anxiety, paying our bills initially or ahead of time or preparing so that we don't end up in a bad financial situation. Now, here's the thing. Also realize that when you spend all this time on anxiety and it's paralyzing and you're afraid, you are not taking steps to solve the problem. Any problem you've been through in your life, I'll guarantee you, in your past, it's over with. Most every problem is in the past. You got through that so you can get through this. So instead of being paralyzed and just letting the anxiety take over your mind and body, focus the energy. See, it's wasted energy to have anxiety. Focus the energy on solving the problem. So you must communicate with the people involved in the problem, right? And if it's up to them to solve that problem, then leave it in their lap. Don't keep it in yourself. If it's a forgiveness thing where you feel someone needs to forgive you, I highly recommend that you ask for forgiveness for them. And you say, well, that's not right because I'm the one that's been wronged. True, except for you're the one suffering from the anxiety. So when you ask for forgiveness, basically what you're doing is you're solving the circumstance, right? And you're taking the anxiety off yourself. I like a saying that animosity is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die, right? So the animosity is bothering you. It's not bothering the other person, I'll guarantee it. And if your business doesn't have enough work, I mean, this really does boil down to your business, right? This is what this is about. Well, it has a lot to do with life, but in business or with your work, um, you can avoid a lot of anxiety by getting out there and beating the bushes, they say. And what that means is if you don't have enough work, you need to start communicating with people. Hey, what do you got? What can I do? And when you do serve someone, give it your best. Under promise, over deliver, and they will recommend you. And eventually you'll build on that, and you'll have more work than you know what to do with. And you will avoid that anxiety. Pay your bills. Make sure you make enough and charge enough so that you can pay your bills. It's not a hobby, it's a business, right? Every day focus on the profit. You will avoid all of the anxiety. I know that is a whole lot and that is a roundabout way. I hope you could follow that, but I know that this will help you. So focus that energy on the solution, right? Don't make the anxiety become a disadvantage. Anxiety was intended to help us get out of a situation, right? A dangerous situation. I don't believe in evolution. I do believe that in any circumstance, if you're out in the woods and a bear is right there, you're going to run. That's the right kind of anxiety, right? But instead of being paralyzed and standing there waiting for the bear to eat you, you find a safe haven or you grab a big stick and you start yelling. You're focused on the solution, not the problem. Mouthful, right? Please subscribe. Please ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them based on my experience. All right? Take care.